Hello, spend a nice day. President Trump's supporters break into Congress, injuring one woman. Bomb found in city. A supporter of Mr. Trump breaks into Congress and one woman injured. CNN. On the 6th in Washington, the U.S. Capitol, many supporters of President Trump broke into the Capitol building, injured a woman. A few hours later, the mob was eliminated and the Capitol was regained security, but the Capitol was in a state of turmoil, with suspicious objects that seemed to be bombs found one after another in the city, and a curfew was issued. According to the Metropolitan Police, a woman was shot dead in the chest on the premises of the Capitol. Details are unknown at this time. Several police officers were injured and at least one was taken to the hospital, according to people familiar with the matter. Hundreds of Trump's supporters broke through the barricade and broke into the Capitol building after 1 p.m. that day in protest of an electoral vote to certify Democratic Party's presidential election. I was in a rush with the police across a metal fence. Smoke rushed into the area, and there were scenes where police officers used tear spray. Police instructed lawmakers in the House of Representatives to hide under their desks. Many lawmakers wore gas masks to move between buildings and called their families to inform them of their safety. Police evacuated lawmakers from the House of Representatives and also evacuated Vice President Mike Pence, who was planning to count electoral votes. On the Senate side, smoke bombs were used as police removed the mob from the building. The windows on the west side of the Senate were broken, and hundreds of police officers were gathering on the ground floor of the building. The mob was removed from the Senate hall at around 3:30 p.m., and police told CNN that the mob had been locked out of the Senate building. According to the guards, the Capitol building was regained safety at around 5:40 p.m.
We're breaking down
Parliamentary leaders have evacuated from the Capitol building before 5 p.m. and are moving to a nearby Army base. According to a White House spokesman, President Trump ordered the dispatch of National Guard and others. The mayor of Washington, has issued a curfew to the entire city from 6 p.m. on the 6th to 6 a.m. on the 7th. There were reports of suspicious objects that appeared to be pipe bombs in several places in Washington, and federal police and local police responded. According to Republican officials, a pipe bomb was found on the ground facing the wall of the building at the headquarters of the Republican National Committee on the 6th, and police safely disposed of it. Washington, 6th Reuters. Some of Trump's supporters who gathered around the Capitol broke security and invaded the building on the 6th at the federal parliament, which aggregates the electoral votes of the U.S. presidential election last November. In response to this, the Capitol was closed and discussions at the joint plenary session of the House and Senate were suspended. In response to this turmoil, members of both the House and Senate evacuated. Vice President Mike Pence, who is the facilitator of the proceedings, has also left the Senate. Police used tear gas on the intruder. Intruders used chemical stimulants to attack security guards, injuring several police officers, according to police in Washington, D.C. Police declared that the Capitol was safe after 5:30 p.m., 2230 GMT, 7:30 a.m. Japan time, more than 3 hours after the turmoil. After that, the joint plenary session of the House and Senate resumed deliberations on Mr. Biden's next presidential recognition. We are discussing the objections filed by Trump lawmakers, but it is unlikely that they will be accepted. Some lawmakers who have expressed their intention to challenge have also softened their attitudes, such as shifting to a policy of challenging only the election results of one state instead of multiple states. Republican Senator Joe Biden, who was defeated in the Georgia final vote, said he was planning to challenge Mr. Biden's president-elect, but said he had changed his mind after Trump's supporters occupied the parliament. "I can no longer challenge the election results in the light of my conscience," he said. President-elect Biden accused the attack on the Capitol, the destruction of windows, and the occupation of Congress as a rebellion, not a protest, in a television speech. He called on the mobs to retreat and proceed with democratic proceedings, and he called on Mr. Trump to ask his supporters to lift the siege. Under these circumstances, Mr. Trump called on his supporters to restrain himself in a video posted on Twitter. He reiterated the unfounded allegations that the elections were stolen, and he said, "You must return home. We need peace. We must have law and order." Slideshow 4 images. In response to the turmoil, the mayor of Washington, D.C., issued a curfew from 6 p.m. that day to 6 a.m. the next day. Prior to this, President Trump addressed a rally in Washington, stating that he would never admit the defeat of the presidential election last November. He reiterated to his supporters that there was a large-scale injustice in the election, saying, "We will never give up. We will never admit defeat. Stop stealing." Thousands of supporters of President-elect Trump protesting Mr. Biden's next presidential recognition at the joint plenary session of the House and Senate gathered to cheer on President-elect Trump. Members of extremist groups and far-right groups also participated in the protest. According to CNN, the entire National Guard in Washington, D.C., has been deployed. At the request, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam has announced that he will send National Guard to the Capitol. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell accused Republicans of doubting the victory of former Vice President Joe Biden in the U.S. presidential election last November at the beginning of the joint plenary session of the Senate and Senate as an act of damaging the United States. "If we overturn the vote, the United States will be forever damaged," he said.